I'm learning about it from you, it feels like that starts so early and you're just carrying it for all these years. And then you become aware of it when you're starting to apply for a job, or you're wanting to put yourself forward for a promotion, or you're trying to find the relationship of your dreams. And all of a sudden now you're like, well, why do I feel this way? And I can imagine a lot of our listeners right now are sitting here going, Shadé, I do all of those 4 things.
That's me.
Yeah, that's me. And so if someone's listening right now and they're saying, Shadé J, that's me, I do all 4 of those things, I have no idea. Do I have to stop doing those things? Do I have to... So self-acceptance, that is the issue that I'm having. I don't accept myself according to your 4 measures. Where do I even begin to go? What questions should I be asking from that point?
So I love how you mentioned that we develop this early in life. Let's start there, and then we'll go to how we can start to break the attachment that we have to this. Mm-hmm. So generally, this sense of acceptance that we have develops in the first 3 to 4 years. Initially, it's based on the response we get from our parents, our primary caregivers. And then it also develops based on whether we feel that we get the emotional support and the nurturing that we need. If you feel like you constantly have to earn your parents' attention or do something exciting to get them to pay attention to you, then we develop this belief that I must perform to be worthy. It can also happen later in life when a parent says to you or compares your report card, your grades, to a sibling, or makes you feel like you're only of value when you're winning an award or coming first in the swimming competition that you're in, the race. So we develop these really early on. And, we do need to acknowledge so much of who we are as a result of those early experiences. That doesn't mean we are a prisoner to that. And it doesn't mean that we should be blaming that environment and our parents and our, the caregivers that we had. We need to acknowledge that they were doing the best that they could with what they knew at the time. We have this beautiful ability of taking ownership of our lives, which actually comes down to the 3rd pillar, which we'll get to, which allows us to, as you said, become aware of these patterns. So often, Jay, and if you're listening, you may find that you have not been aware of these things. And it's only when you listen to sessions like this, conversations like this, when you read a book, where you suddenly start to almost self-diagnose and realize, this is me. See that as a really positive thing, because you're identifying that you are part of this experience as opposed to just, this is who I am. Mm. So that's a really positive thing. So what do we do if we identify, okay, I'm really struggling with acceptance? The very first thing is to acknowledge that you are not your thoughts and you are not your beliefs. Beliefs are simply just a repeated pattern of thought that has happened so many times in our brain that it becomes a default. It's just a really, really fast process, neural pathway. And in the same way that a belief is formed early in our lives, we can overwrite that belief. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes repetition. Yes, it takes practice. But we have the ability to do that through conscious choice. And so the moment you start noticing that you're feeling insecure, those thoughts come into your mind, I can't do this, I don't deserve this, I'm not enough. That's the key phrase for someone who lacks acceptance. I'm not enough. So I must prove that I'm enough. I must earn that feeling from other people. I must chase it through achievement. The moment you notice that, consciously re-engage the prefrontal part of your brain. This is how you re-engage attention and say to yourself, hold on, I don't need to believe that thought. I don't need to believe that belief. Remind yourself that I have value. I am of value. And one of the simplest hacks that you can use in those moments is to stop thinking about yourself. I know that sounds really odd to say, but when we are suffering with a lack of self-acceptance, it's always I, me, my. How do they see me? How am I coming across? What am I doing right now? If you can shift and go, okay, how can I be here for them? How can I be of value? How can I be of service? How can I make this person feel seen? That's called self-forgetting. And research shows that this process of self-forgetting, by becoming more service-oriented, helps to quieten that incessant voice of the ego.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable how when you tap into that, suddenly you realize, okay, I don't have to be so in my head.
Yeah.
I want to share just a couple of really simple techniques for anyone who really does struggle with acceptance. The first one is, if you struggle with acceptance, you are going to attach your sense of identity to your job and to your achievements and to your performance. So if things are going well professionally, if you're achieving things, if you're doing amazing things, you feel fantastic. And then something happens and it all crumbles and you fail, you take it personally. You internalize that failure. Mm-hmm. So the first and foremost thing you need to do is acknowledge you are not your job. There is so much to you that exists outside of that environment, which I know is really hard to do if you work, especially in a corporate organization, where your entire status is determined by your job title and how well you're delivering and your promotion track record, right? So we tend to internalize these things, but you need to consciously remind yourself through that prefrontal activation, I am not my job. I am so much more than this. And there's a really interesting little technique we like to share. Not even a technique, it's actually a suggestion. So Jay, there was a study that was conducted with Nobel Prize winning scientists, and they looked at 500 of them, and they found that they were 3 times more likely than regular scientists to have a creative hobby. Mm-hmm. Not only that, they were 22 times more likely than regular scientists to have a hobby in the performing arts, singing, music, drama.
Wow.
Many of them attribute that hobby to helping them bounce back when things didn't go to plan, and also to allowing them to make connections that other people wouldn't have been able to. Mm. And so what can we take from that?
Brilliant.
It's great, right? It's
so
a cool
good.
study. What can we take from that? Well, having something outside of work that we can pour ourselves into, especially something creative, because we know about the impact that has in the brain, that allows us to remind ourselves, hey, even if I didn't do well today at work, even if I didn't achieve this thing that I wanted to, I get to go and take on that character in that play.
Yes.
I get to go and pick up my guitar. I get to go and paint that beautiful painting. And fascinatingly, hobbies, especially creative hobbies, have been found to increase your self-esteem, which increases your sense of self-acceptance.
Yes.
So it's a very odd one, but I would encourage you, if you struggle here, go and pick up a hobby and embrace the messiness of being a beginner.
I love how practical, tactical, and simple this is. And simple in a good way, in that I think anyone who's listening right now, they've got their plan of action for acceptance. You've got the questions to ask yourself, or to make sure, I don't need to believe that. I don't need to agree with those beliefs. I don't need to agree with those thoughts. You've got the idea of what's your hobby. And so I love that you said that. And I started thinking about my own, and I've got a fair few. I've got pickleball. I play a ton of football or soccer when I'm back in London. I enjoy, they're not creative in artistic sense, but they're physical because my work's so creative. So in one sense, just these physical competitive things that allow me to be with friends, connection. I love game nights.
Brilliant.
I'm a big fan of game nights.
Good.
And so it seems like anything that's collaborative and competitive makes me feel good because my work's so creative already. So I think I don't crave creativity, but I do crave that desire to play and be free.